My ex-husband painted me as an abusive monster. In court, not knowing his mistress was testifying for me. I walked into the courtroom on the day of the custody battle, prepared for him to lie about me. He'd been a compulsive liar our whole marriage, and I knew he planned to use Amelia's trauma to prove I was an unfit mother. He took the stand teary-eyed, and the first thing he said was, "I just want what's best for our baby girl." The judge looked at him like he was a saint. My husband wiped his eyes dry and started lying about how Amelia came to him dirty and unfed after staying with me, about how he had proof I was active on dating sites, and that strange men frequented my apartment while Amelia was there. That's when he signaled to his lawyer, who pulled out my medical records. "Look," my husband said, signaling for the judge to look at my diagnosed clinical depression and anxiety. "Depression is cruel. It can make someone neglect everything." The judge nodded slowly like he was agreeing, but depression doesn't excuse a monster. His eyes then narrowed in on me. Before I knew it, my ex was once again tearing up, now talking about how I was hurting Amelia. His lawyer pulled up photos of her bruises that occurred during lacrosse practice, accompanied with an audio recording of Amelia crying and begging mommy not to hit her. The judge stared at me in silence. Just as I thought it couldn't get worse, my husband started claiming I'd been not just wailing on Amelia, but physically and psychologically tormenting her too. He began angrily cursing at me, borderline shouting about how he used to cry seeing me lock Amelia in the dark closet for hours as punishment. When his lawyer asked him why he never stopped me, he yelled because she used to tell me she'd call police and say I hit her if I helped Amelia. He was so angry the judge had to tell him to calm down, and he responded by apologizing and saying this is just super cathartic and makes him emotional. The judge nodded like he understood. And then came the biggest blow of all. My ex broke down. He started full-on sobbing, needing a tissue and requesting a minute to gather himself. While sniffling between his words, he said there's one more thing, that I'd been selling Amelia's body to men for money. My jaw dropped. It was the biggest load of bullshit I'd ever heard, but he was painting these extremely vivid pictures about how Amelia came to him unclothed, asking if he wanted to do to her what mommy's boyfriends did. His tears were so convincing that it scared me. Next thing I knew, my ex-husband was getting off the stand in tears, and Amelia was getting on. She'd spent a lot of time with her dad lately, so I prepared for the worst. On the stand, she moved like a puppet and spoke in this mechanical voice I'd never heard before. She recited words too big for her and said terrible things about me hurting her when hammered. She described praying for dad to come save her because she felt like she was going to die if she stayed with me. When asked if she loved me, she simply said she was scared of me. My ex-husband kept looking right at her the entire time, gripping his chest like he was so proud of how strong his daughter was. When Amelia was done, my husband's lawyers requested restraining orders and psychiatric evaluations. They suggested that my daughter's life was at risk and told the judge they wanted to press criminal charges. The judge's disgust was visible. My ex-husband caught my eye and mouthed his victory. But here's the thing. I had an ace up my sleeve, and that ace came in the form of my only witness. My lawyer called her name, and I could literally see in real time how my ex-husband's demeanor changed. He went from crocodile tears and proud dad looks to angry, shocked, and deflated all at once. His lawyer actually tried to object, but the judge denied it. When she got on the stand, she identified herself as his girlfriend of 10 months, who got with him before we even divorced. She explained that after witnessing what my ex did to Amelia in his home, she couldn't watch as he got custody of her. My ex's lawyer actually tried to object relevance again, which was comical given what we're here for LOL. The woman then pulled out her phone and started showing the judge video after video. My ex laying hands on our daughter for spilling juice, him screaming until Amelia cowered, him literally hours before court visits coaching her to repeat specific lies about me. The most damning footage showed Marcus laying hands on Amelia so she could scream into his phone about how mommy hits her. He needed her to actually cry to sound real. That's why he used the belt. Right after that video ended, my ex actually got up from his seat and started screaming at the woman, "You're supposed to be on my side, you bitch." Security had to step forward to calm him down, and the judge called an immediate recess. When we returned, he awarded me full custody effective immediately without any visitations for my ex. He also informed me that I have full legal right to press criminal charges. I saw my ex completely losing it when the gavel was banged. Security had to walk him out to ensure he would stay away from us. And in the hallway, Amelia and I hugged so tight. Unfortunately, that happiness wasn't long-lived, because next thing I knew, my ex-husband was wrestling away from the security guards, shouting at us, "This isn't over. I'm coming for a visit tomorrow." The security guards immediately tightened their grip on Marcus's arms, but he kept struggling against them. I pulled Amelia closer, feeling her whole body trembling against mine. The courthouse hallway suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Other people from different cases were staring at us, some pulling out their phones. Marcus's face twisted with rage as the guards dragged him backward, his expensive suit jacket ripped at the shoulder from the struggle. One of the guards spoke into his radio, calling for backup. I grabbed Amelia's hand and started moving toward the exit, but Marcus's voice echoed off the marble walls behind us. The courthouse security supervisor appeared from around the corner, assessing the situation quickly. He directed 2 more guards to escort us to a secure waiting room while they dealt with Marcus. My hands shook as I signed the paperwork for an emergency restraining order right there in the courthouse. The clerk explained it would be temporary, just 100 feet for now, until we could file for a permanent one. Amelia hadn't spoken since her testimony. She sat beside me in the waiting room, picking at a loose thread on her school uniform. I wanted to ask her about the coaching, about what else Marcus had done that wasn't in the videos, but the words stuck in my throat. The court advocate brought us water and crackers, which neither of us touched. An hour later, a police officer came to take our statements. He explained that Marcus had been released, but was now legally required to stay 100 feet away from us. The officer gave me me his card and suggested we vary our routines for a while. He mentioned something about documenting any violations, but my mind was already racing ahead to all the places Marcus knew we'd be. We left through a side entrance, my car keys cutting into my palm from how tightly I gripped them. The parking garage felt like a maze. Every shadow could be him. Every footstep echoing off concrete made my heart race. I kept Amelia between me and the wall as we walked, scanning constantly. The drive home took twice as long because I kept checking the mirrors, taking random turns to make sure no one was following us. Amelia finally spoke when we stopped at a red light. She asked if Daddy was going to jail. I told her I didn't know yet, but that we were safe now. She nodded but didn't look convinced. Our apartment building's parking lot was nearly empty at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. I circled it twice before parking, checking every car. Inside, I immediately locked the deadbolt and put the chain on. The apartment felt different somehow, like the walls were thinner, the windows more exposed. I closed all the blinds while Amelia went to her room. My phone buzzed with texts from my lawyer about next steps, from my sister asking how it went, from my boss wondering when I'd be back. I ignored them all. The only person I needed to talk to was Diane, my best friend who'd been watching Amelia during some of the court proceedings. She answered on the first ring, already crying with relief when I told her we won. That evening, I made Amelia's favorite spaghetti, trying to create some normalcy. She pushed it around her plate, taking tiny bites. The silence between us felt heavy with everything we couldn't say yet. When she asked to be excused, I let her go, even though she'd barely eaten. I scraped both our plates into the trash, my appetite gone too. The apartment felt too quiet after Amelia went to bed. I double-checked all the locks, then sat on the couch with my laptop, researching security systems we couldn't afford. My credit cards were already maxed from lawyer fees. The custody battle had cost me everything, including the promotion I'd been working toward for 2 years. My boss had been understanding at first, but patience has limits. I must have dozed off because I woke to my phone buzzing. 2:47 a.m. unknown number. I didn't answer, but they called right back. Then again. On the fourth call, I picked up, ready to scream at Marcus to leave us alone. But it was his mother, slurring through tears about how I'd destroyed her family. I hung up and blocked the number, but sleep didn't come again. The next morning, Amelia moved through our routine like a ghost. Breakfast, teeth brushing, getting dressed, all mechanical. At school drop-off, I walked her all the way to her classroom instead of letting her go at the main entrance like usual. Her teacher gave me a sympathetic look but didn't ask questions. Everyone would know soon enough. After dropping Amelia off, I sat in the school parking lot, watching other parents come and go. Normal people with normal lives. A text from Diane reminded me she had a job interview that afternoon and desperately needed someone to watch her twins. She'd used her sick days to be in court with me, and her boss was already suspicious. I texted back that of course I'd help. The grocery store was my next stop. We needed everything. I'd barely shopped during the trial. I was comparing cereal prices when I felt it, that prickle on the back of my neck. I turned, and there he was at the far end of the aisle, Marcus, just standing there, holding a basket, looking at pasta sauce, more than 100 feet away. Technically legal. My hands started shaking. Amelia's favorite cereal box slipped from my fingers, hitting the floor with a crash that seemed impossibly loud. An elderly woman asked if I was all right. I nodded, unable to speak, still staring at Marcus. He glanced up at the noise, our eyes meeting across the distance. He didn't smile or frown, just looked, then went back to examining sauce labels. I abandoned my half-full cart and walked quickly toward customer service. The teenage employee behind the counter looked bored until I started explaining, but my ex-husband is shopping in the same store. Sounded pathetic even to my own ears. She suggested maybe shopping different aisles would help. I wanted to scream that she didn't understand, but what was the point? He wasn't doing anything illegal. I left without buying anything, sitting in my car until I saw Marcus exit 20 minutes later. He loaded his groceries slowly, methodically, his car parked where I could see it clearly. Not a coincidence. Nothing with Marcus was ever a coincidence. He drove away without looking in my direction, but the message was clear. The restraining order only meant he had to stay 100 feet away. It didn't mean he had to stay out of our life. By the time I picked up Diane's twins, my nerves were shot. She hugged me at her door, thanking me over and over. Her husband barely looked at me, just grabbed his keys and left. The tension in their house was obvious. My drama was affecting them too. Diane whispered that it was just temporary stress from job hunting, but we both knew the truth. My situation was poisoning everything it touched. The twins bounced around Diane's living room while I tried to keep them entertained. My hands still trembled from the grocery store encounter. Every car that passed made me check the window. Marcus knew Diane's address. He'd been here for barbecues, birthday parties. The twins kept asking why Aunt Marcus wasn't coming to play anymore. Diane's interview ran late. Her texts grew increasingly frantic about traffic and parking. I reassured her everything was fine, but my chest tightened with each passing minute. The school pickup window for Amelia was approaching fast. I calculated distances, drive times, possible delays. The math didn't work. When Diane finally burst through the door, her face flushed with apology and exhaustion, she grabbed my hands, explaining how the interview went long but she thought she'd nailed it. I forced a smile and gathered my things quickly. She noticed my rush and started apologizing again, mentioning how she knew I had a lot going on. The words stung more than she realized. The drive to Amelia's school took 17 minutes on a good day. I had 12. My speedometer crept higher as I wove through traffic, watching for cops and Marcus's silver sedan simultaneously. Other parents were already lining up when I screeched into the pickup lane. That's when I saw him. Marcus stood by the fence chatting with 3 other parents. His body language relaxed, hands gesturing casually as he spoke. One mom touched his arm sympathetically. Another dad nodded along to whatever story he was spinning. They stood exactly 100 feet from the school entrance, legal distance. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. The line moved slowly. Marcus caught my eye and waved. Not at me, but past past me, as if greeting someone else. The other parents followed his gaze, saw me, then quickly looked away. Their body language shifted, protective, suspicious. Amelia emerged with her class, scanning the pickup line. Her face lit up when she spotted Marcus by the fence. She started to wave but caught herself, glancing around nervously. Her teacher guided her toward my car, keeping a firm hand on her shoulder. Marcus called out something I couldn't hear. Amelia's whole body turned toward his voice. The teacher opened my car door and helped Amelia inside. Her expression remained professionally neutral, but her movements were quick, efficient, getting us out of there. As we pulled away, I watched Marcus in the rearview mirror, still chatting with the parent group, still playing the victim. At home, Amelia disappeared into her room without speaking. I started dinner, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. My phone rang, the school counselor. She explained there'd been some concerning behavior. Amelia had been withdrawn, wasn't eating lunch, kept asking when Daddy would pick her up again. The counselor suggested we schedule a meeting. Before I could respond, my apartment manager knocked. Noise complaints, he explained, shouting at odd hours, doors slamming, things breaking. I hadn't broken anything. I hadn't shouted, but 3 separate neighbors had called. He handed me an official warning. Next time would mean eviction proceedings. My phone buzzed with a text from my boss. Mandatory overtime this weekend. The Peterson account needed attention, and I was already behind from all my court absences. No exceptions. I stared at the message, calculating childcare costs I couldn't afford. I made the only choice that made sense. I called the after-school program and enrolled Amelia for extended hours. The coordinator sounded sympathetic when I explained I needed care until 6 p.m. on weekends. She mentioned they had several single parents in similar situations. The fee made my stomach turn, but what else could I do? That weekend, I dropped Amelia at the program early. She dragged her backpack, shoulders slumped. Other kids ran past us, excited about whatever activities were planned. Amelia just stood there, looking small and lost. I kissed her forehead and promised to be back as soon as I could. The office was empty except for me and the cleaning crew. I buried myself in spreadsheets and client emails, trying to catch up on weeks of neglect. My productivity was shot. Every notification made me jump. Every footstep in the hallway sent my heart racing. I kept checking the parking lot, expecting to see Marcus's car. Around 2 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number. A photo of the after-school program's outdoor play area. Amelia sat alone on a bench while other kids played. The angle suggested it was taken from the public sidewalk, exactly 100 feet from the property line. My hands shook as I deleted it and blocked the number. I left work early, racing to pick up Amelia. The program director met me at the door with a concerned expression. She explained that a man had been standing across the street for about an hour, watching the children play. When staff approached, he'd explained he was just enjoying the public park. They couldn't do anything since he wasn't on their property. Amelia was quiet on the drive home. When I asked about her day, she shrugged. Asked if anyone had bothered her, she shook her head. But her eyes kept darting to the mirrors, watching cars behind us. She'd learned to be afraid too. That night, I found her diary under her bed while putting away laundry. My hand froze on the small pink notebook. Every instinct screamed to read it, to know what she was thinking, what she might have written about Marcus. But we were rebuilding trust. I slid it back where I'd found it, unopened. The truth was right there, possibly evidence, but taking it would destroy something we couldn't afford to lose. I barely slept anymore. Every night around 3 a.m., I'd patrol the apartment, checking locks, peering through blinds. One night, our neighbor caught me taking out trash in my pajamas, hair unwashed, bags under my eyes. She asked if everything was all right. I mumbled something about insomnia and hurried back inside. The next afternoon, Amelia's teacher called. She'd run into Marcus at the bank. He'd been depositing a check when he recognized her, started crying about missing his daughter, asked how she was doing in school. The teacher felt awful, but had answered his questions before remembering the situation. She apologized profusely, but the damage was done. Marcus now knew Amelia was struggling academically. My sister called that evening. Her voice carried that careful tone people use when they're worried you're losing it. She mentioned how I reminded her of Mom after Dad died. The comparison hit like a slap. Mom had spiraled for months, paranoid that everyone was against her, seeing threats everywhere. My sister added that she knew how I could get when stressed. The implication hung heavy between us. I opened Facebook to distract myself and immediately regretted it. The school's parent group had exploded with activity. Marcus had posted about praying for healing and reunion with his daughter, crying emoji, heart emoji, dozens of comments offering support, prayers, suggestions for father's rights lawyers. I couldn't respond without looking vindictive, couldn't defend myself without seeming unhinged, so I watched the narrative build, helpless. The next day, I tried to document Marcus's stalking. I held my phone low, pretending to text while filming him at the grocery store. A manager approached within minutes. Another customer had complained about me recording people without permission. Store policy prohibited it. I tried explaining, but how do you make "my ex is shopping for milk" sound threatening? They asked me to leave. That night, I noticed something odd on our Netflix account. Amelia's profile showed recently watched content I didn't recognize. Violent anime, true crime documentaries, horror movies. The viewing times matched when she was supposedly at Marcus's apartment. He still had the password. He was curating what she watched, filling her mind with darkness. 3 days without real sleep. My eyes burned. My hands shook constantly. I measured Amelia's allergy medicine carefully, or thought I did. She complained it tasted funny. I checked the bottle. I'd given her a double dose. Panic flooded through me as I called poison control. They said she'd be fine, but suggested the ER for monitoring. The ER visit took 4 hours. Amelia dozed on the uncomfortable bed while I filled out paperwork, explaining to skeptical nurses how the mistake happened. They documented everything, asked about my mental state, noted my exhaustion. It all went into her medical records. More ammunition for Marcus. Diane texted while we waited. Her husband had given her an ultimatum. Either she stopped helping that drama, or he'd file for divorce. She believed believed me," she wrote, but she couldn't lose her marriage over this. She had her own kids to think about. I understood, but it felt like another support beam crumbling. School pickup became a daily gauntlet. Parents whispered when I arrived, conversations stopped, kids weren't allowed to come for playdates anymore. One mom actually pulled her daughter away when she ran up to hug Amelia. I later learned about the concerned parents group chat, screenshots of Marcus's posts, discussions about my erratic behavior, debates about whether someone should call CPS. Marcus's alibi for the stalking incident came through his building's security footage. Time-stamped video showed him entering his apartment at 2:47 p.m. and not leaving until 6:30 p.m. Except I'd seen him at the store at 3:15 p.m. His building's system had a known glitch with timestamps, but try explaining that without sounding paranoid. An old friend reached out needing a favor. She was applying to nursing school and needed recommendation letters. Marcus had supervised her clinical rotation last year. She hated asking, but he was her best reference. Could I understand if she maintained contact with him? Just professional, nothing personal. Another ally lost to necessity. I tried to clear Marcus's name on the trafficking allegation, thinking it would help, but explaining the truth made things worse. Yes, I'd let Amelia's friend's divorced dad pick her up from school once. Yes, I'd been overwhelmed and accepted help from someone I barely knew. The truth somehow made me look more irresponsible than the lie. When I finally got the temporary restraining order extended, I felt a moment of relief. Walking out of the courthouse, I actually laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed off the buildings. Marcus's friend happened to be recording a video across the street. By evening, it was posted online. Mother celebrates keeping father from child. The caption included crying emojis. The comments were brutal. That night, Marcus texted from a new number. A single line before I could block him. "You should have just shared custody." The threat was clear. This would continue until one of us was destroyed. I screenshotted it, adding to my growing folder of evidence. But evidence of what? Being divorced? Having an angry ex? None of it proved systematic stalking. Marcus started dating someone new, Sarah, a single mom whose daughter was in Amelia's class. She seemed nice, genuinely unaware of our situation. At pickup, she'd share innocent stories about playground conversations, how Amelia seemed overwhelmed lately, how she'd been crying at recess. Sarah quoted Amelia's favorite movie in passing, something about being brave when you're scared. Marcus must have coached her, but how could I prove it? The pickup incident report showed conflicting accounts. I said Marcus grabbed Amelia's arm when she walked too close to the fence. He said he'd hugged his crying daughter who'd run to him. The security footage was inconclusive, too far away, wrong angle. Without audio, it could be interpreted either way. My phone storage filled up with screenshots. I started organizing them, then found old texts from our marriage, messages sent during my postpartum depression. "I can't handle Amelia today. Why did we have kids? I need you to take her before I lose it." All sent during my darkest moments, when I'd been drowning and begging for help. Now they'd be evidence of being an unfit mother. Amelia came home from school repeating something strange. Her teacher had asked about summer plans, and Amelia said Daddy told her Mommy might have to go away to get better. The teacher reported it to me, concerned. Marcus was planting seeds, preparing Amelia for losing me. Our neighbor's Ring doorbell caught me dragging a screaming Amelia inside one evening. She'd gotten a splinter at the playground and was terrified of tweezers. On video, without audio, it looked like I was forcing a resistant child into the apartment. The neighbor mentioned she'd saved the footage, just in case. In case of what, she didn't say. Marcus's lawyer filed a motion for supervised visitation, claiming parental alienation. The hearing wouldn't be for 2 months, but the filing was public record. More ammunition for the parent gossip mill. More proof that I was the unreasonable one keeping a father from his child. I discovered Marcus still had access to Amelia's medical portal. The password hadn't been changed since our marriage. His browser history showed searches for parental alienation syndrome and coaching children testimony. I changed the password, but the damage was done. He'd downloaded years of records. His Instagram stories became psychological warfare. Photos from every place I'd just left. The same coffee shop 20 minutes after me, the same gas station, same pump an hour later. Never at the same time. Always with timestamps proving he'd arrived after I left. Creating alibis while showing me he knew my every move. My new therapist took notes as I explained the situation. When I mentioned that sometimes I dreamed Marcus just disappeared, she stopped writing, asked what I meant by disappeared. I clarified, moved away, lost interest, found someone else to torment. She made more notes. Later, I learned she was required to report it as a potential threat. I tried recording Marcus at the next school pickup, held my phone casually, pretending to scroll while the camera ran. He spotted it immediately. His voice carried across the playground as he asked loudly why I was filming children. Parents turned, teachers noticed, security approached. I deleted the video and left quickly, face burning. The 3 p.m. pickup routine became a chess match. Marcus arrived at 2:45 to establish position, always 100 feet from school property, always with other parents around, always the victim. I started arriving at 3:10, but Amelia would be anxious by then, wondering why I was late. Damned either way. The school counselor called about an anonymous complaint filed with the state board. Someone accused her of supporting parental alienation by not facilitating contact between Amelia and Marcus. Her job was at risk. She had 3 kids to feed, she explained. She'd still help however she could, but she had to be careful. Another support crumbling. I noticed Marcus wearing a familiar cologne, my father's brand, the same scent from Christmas dinners and birthday hugs. He'd pair it with phrases from our marriage. "Hey there, sunshine," when he saw Amelia, the same words he'd used during our good times. Amelia's face would cloud with confusion, torn between past warmth and present fear. Marcus made an offer through his lawyer. Supervised visitation at a therapeutic center. He'd drop the alienation claim if I dropped the criminal charges, framed as best for Amelia's healing. My lawyer said it wasn't unreasonable. Judges liked parents who cooperated, but I couldn't couldn't, not after what he'd done. My refusal went public within days. A Facebook post in the parent group. Mom refuses to let daughter get closure with father, prefers revenge over healing. The comments piled up. Suggestions that I was the real abuser, that I was using Amelia as a weapon, that someone should investigate me. While reviewing evidence, I discovered an error that made my stomach drop. The incident where Marcus hurt Amelia. I'd reported it as Monday, but checking the calendar, it had been Tuesday. My police report was technically false, a simple mistake that could discredit everything else. I found out both Amelia and Marcus had been recording. Her tablet was full of videos she'd made to show the judge what really happens. Some helped my case. Others showed me crying in the bathroom, overwhelmed. Marcus had his own recordings. The truth was messy, complicated, not the clear-cut case I'd hoped for. The trafficking allegation unraveled further. Marcus had enrolled Amelia in acting classes to prepare her testimony. The instructor was male. The classes were legitimate. My accusation looked like paranoid retaliation. More credibility lost. My mother faced an impossible choice: support me or maintain her relationship with Marcus's mother, her church friend of 20 years. They'd been in the same Bible study, same social circle. Choosing neutrality meant she wouldn't testify about witnessing Marcus's past violence. The church community mattered too much. I started adopting Marcus's tactics, befriended his girlfriend Sarah's sister on Facebook, casually ran into her at coffee shops, gathered information about his home life through innocent conversation, learned his routines, his weaknesses, became someone I didn't recognize. I accidentally encountered Marcus's AA sponsor at our old coffee spot, made small talk about the weather while planting seeds of doubt, mentioned how stressed Marcus seemed lately, how I worried about his sobriety with all this pressure. The sponsor's face showed concern. Mission accomplished, but I felt dirty. My lawyer finally subpoenaed Amelia's tablet through proper channels. The videos were damning. Marcus coaching her word by word, telling her what to say about mommy, but also videos of her genuinely scared, genuinely hurt. The truth tangled with lies until even I couldn't separate them completely. Marcus's ex-girlfriend from college reached out. She'd heard about our case and wanted to help. She had her own stories about his violence, his control, but she wanted money for her testimony. $5,000 I didn't have. Justice with a price tag I couldn't afford. Fighting two battles meant impossible choices: criminal lawyer or custody lawyer, therapy for Amelia or gas money for work. I missed her therapy appointment while meeting with the prosecutor. The therapist noted it as non-compliant with treatment plan. Another mark against me. My credit cards maxed out one by one. Legal fees, therapy costs, security deposits. Meanwhile, Marcus used our old joint accounts I'd forgotten to close. He funded his defense with money that was technically half mine. The bank wouldn't freeze them without a court order. We ran into each other at Amelia's favorite ice cream shop. I'd taken her for a treat after a hard week. Marcus walked in with Sarah and her daughter. The teenage employees sensed the tension immediately. Amelia froze, torn between parents. Marcus suggested we all sit together, for the kids. I refused. Voices raised. The manager asked us to leave. Amelia retreated further into herself. My job performance reviews came back negative. Excessive absences, personal calls during work hours, distracted, unfocused, unreliable. My boss delivered the news with sympathy but firmness. The company had been patient, but business was business. I had 2 weeks to improve or face termination. The termination came anyway. A customer complaint about personal drama affecting service. The customer turned out to be friends with Marcus's new girlfriend. Coincidence? I'd never prove otherwise. Unemployment would take weeks to kick in. Savings were gone. Credit cards maxed. Reality crashed down hard. My sister offered her basement, a twin bed and a dresser in a room that smelled like cat litter. Amelia would sleep on the couch. It was humiliating but necessary. Meanwhile, Marcus posted photos of Amelia's room at his apartment. Pink walls, new furniture, stuffed animals arranged perfectly, waiting for her return. My father's intervention hurt the most. He'd driven 3 hours to see us, sat in my sister's kitchen, looking older than I remembered. He begged me to consider what this was doing to Amelia, said I was becoming like Marcus, obsessed, destructive, unable to see past my own pain. His words cut deep because part of me feared he was right. I started investigating Marcus's co-workers, trying to build a pattern of workplace behavior, called pretending to be a reference checker, asked probing questions. One coworker mentioned my call to her supervisor. She got written up for taking personal calls during work. Her husband called me, furious. Their daughter had overheard the argument, asked why mommy was crying. I'd caused collateral damage to prove a point. The coworker cut all contact. Her marriage strained over the lost income from her write-up. She'd been saving for her daughter's birthday party. Now that money went to bills. All because I couldn't leave well enough alone. Because I had to prove Marcus was evil at any cost. But I couldn't stop. Each small victory felt essential. Each piece of evidence might be the one that mattered. Even as bridges burned around me, even as Amelia withdrew further, I kept pushing. The investigation consumed everything. My sister found me at 2 a.m., laptop open, surrounded by printed emails and text messages. She asked what would happen if the court had been right the first time, if Marcus really was the better parent. I couldn't answer immediately. The doubt she'd planted took root, spreading through my certainty like poison. I decided to go public with my struggles, posted on Facebook about my postpartum depression, about the context behind those old texts, about how Marcus had weaponized my lowest moments. Some people understood. Others saw it as confirmation that I was unstable. The comments section became a battlefield. Amelia's tablet contained more than just coaching videos. There was footage of me during the marriage, crying in the bathroom, saying I couldn't do this anymore, begging for 5 minutes of peace. Marcus had been recording for years, building his case. The violation felt fresh, even though the videos were old. Marcus's lawyer filed another motion, this time claiming I was coaching Amelia against him, using her therapy sessions as evidence. The therapist therapist had noted Amelia's reluctance to discuss her father. Normal trauma response or parental influence. The court would decide. I watched Marcus at pickup, really watched him, saw the exhaustion beneath his performance, the way his hands shook slightly, the forced smile that never reached his eyes. He genuinely believed he was saving Amelia. In his mind, I was the monster. He was the hero. The conviction in his delusion was terrifying. Understanding his motivation didn't make it easier. Real concern mixed with narcissistic control. Love twisted with possession. He couldn't separate protecting Amelia from owning her. Every action justified by genuine fear that I'd harm her. Even his lies came from a place of distorted truth. I faced an impossible choice. Amelia needed therapy, but each session risked revealing more ammunition for Marcus. I'd promised never to make her talk about Daddy, but the therapist needed honesty to help. Breaking that promise felt like betrayal. Keeping it meant Amelia suffered in silence. The old version of me would have protected Amelia's trust at all costs, but I needed evidence, needed the therapist to document Marcus's impact. So I encouraged Amelia to be honest in sessions, told her it was safe to share everything, watched her trust in me flicker and dim. After therapy, I found Amelia's journal again, this time hidden in a different spot. She'd written about nightmares, about Daddy's voice in her head, about feeling scared all the time. The entries were dated after our sessions. Therapy was working, but at what cost to our relationship? A minor victory came through supervised visitation orders. Marcus could see Amelia, but only at a court-approved facility with a social worker present. The wind felt hollow when Amelia broke down at drop-off. She wanted her daddy, missed him despite everything. Both of us cried in that parking lot for different reasons. Marcus claimed parental alienation when Amelia refused his next visit. She'd hidden under her bed, sobbing. I'd had to carry her to the car, then turn around when she became hysterical. The social worker documented her refusal. Marcus's lawyer spun it as evidence of my influence. Everything hinged on the criminal case. The prosecutor reviewed our evidence with careful eyes, explained the burden of proof. Juries needed physical evidence. Bruises, not tears. The emotional abuse was clear, but harder to prosecute. Marcus's girlfriend's testimony would help, but wasn't enough alone. I remembered Amelia's pediatrician. Dr. Martinez had treated suspicious bruises over the years, made notes about Amelia saying Daddy gets mad when she cries, but she'd categorized them as normal discipline concerns. Never reported, never investigated further. I leveraged her guilt, reminded her of her mandatory reporting obligations, of the bruises she'd photographed but dismissed. She agreed to provide medical records but wouldn't testify. Fear of license review outweighed her guilt. The records would have to speak for themselves. The pattern was damning. Bruise on left arm, age 4. Amelia said she fell. Bruise on back, age 5. Said she ran into a door. Handprint bruise, age 6. No explanation given. Dr. Martinez had documented them all, noted they were consistent with child's explanation. Professional blindness preserved in medical charts. The system had failed us repeatedly. Teachers who saw signs but didn't want to get involved. Doctors who documented injuries but didn't dig deeper. Family who witnessed problems but prioritized keeping peace. Everyone choosing comfortable blindness over difficult truth. Marcus's new girlfriend found something disturbing. He'd been practicing victim impact statements in the mirror, recording himself crying about false accusations, planning his lawsuit against me for defamation. She'd thought he was processing trauma. Instead, he was rehearsing performance. More evidence emerged. Marcus had spent Amelia's last birthday not celebrating but meeting with lawyers, scheduling strategy sessions during her school plays, missing bedtime stories to research custody law. His obsession with winning had consumed even his love for her. I finally understood something crucial. Amelia would always love Marcus. No amount of evidence would change that. He was still her daddy, still the man who taught her to ride a bike, who sang silly songs at bedtime. The abuse didn't erase the love. Both existed, impossibly intertwined. Accepting that meant committing to long-term healing, therapy for years, not months. Amelia would struggle with loyalty, with guilt, with loving someone who hurt her. She'd blame me for taking him away, even while being relieved he was gone. The complexity would take time to untangle. Marcus's overconfidence became his weakness. He posted about reunification therapy before custody was even modified, shared articles about healing father-daughter relationships. The presumption revealed his expectations. Screenshots showed premeditation, planning that undermined his victim narrative. I presented everything to the prosecutor without emotion, laid out videos, medical records, witness statements like a case study, kept my voice steady, professional. Marcus had taught me that performance mattered, but my performance was restraint, control, credibility. The criminal investigation opened formally. Detectives interviewed teachers, neighbors, family members. The scope widened beyond our small battle. Marcus hired a criminal defense attorney. The stakes escalated beyond custody to potential jail time. Both of us prepared for war, but we were already casualties. Exhausted, broke, isolated. Our daughter caught between us, loving us both, trusting neither. The victory would be Pyrrhic regardless of outcome. Some damage couldn't be undone. The pediatrician's records arrived by courier 3 days later. I spread them across my sister's kitchen table, each page revealing another missed opportunity. Dr. Martinez had photographed bruises, documented Amelia's fearful comments, noted behavioral changes. The evidence had been there all along, filed away under routine checkups. Marcus's nephew approached me at the grocery store. The boy asked why I wouldn't let Uncle Marcus see Amelia anymore. His innocent question cut deeper than any accusation. I explained that sometimes adults need space from each other. He nodded solemnly, then mentioned Uncle Marcus had been crying a lot lately. The pretrial hearing arrived faster than expected. I sat in the courthouse hallway, watching teachers and community members file past for depositions. Their seating arrangements revealed allegiances, some gravitating toward the prosecutor's side, others keeping distance. Marcus arrived with his lawyer, constantly adjusting his tie, a nervous habit I recognized from our marriage. Inside the courtroom, both of us showed our exhaustion differently. My hands trembled as I organized documents. Marcus kept rubbing his temples, jaw clenched. The months of battle had worn us both down to raw nerves and sleepless nights. Evidence presentation began with Amelia's tablet videos. The prosecutor played them methodically, Marcus coaching her testimony, telling her exactly what to say about mommy. Then the medical records, each bruise cataloged with clinical precision. Witness statements from teachers who'd noticed changes but hadn't acted. The pattern emerged clearly. Marcus's mother took the stand unexpectedly. She admitted she'd tried telling him to be gentler with Amelia. Her testimony seemed more about protecting herself from potential accessory charges than helping us, but it corroborated the pattern of behavior. She avoided eye contact with both of us. The judge ordered immediate psychological evaluations. Marcus would undergo assessment for anger management and parenting capacity. Amelia would receive trauma-focused therapy through the court system. The evaluations would determine next steps for both criminal charges and custody arrangements. Amelia's court-appointed therapist testified after 3 sessions. She described trauma symptoms consistent with coaching and emotional manipulation. The child showed hypervigilance, people-pleasing behaviors, and confusion about reality versus what she'd been told to say. Clear signs of psychological abuse, though physical abuse remained harder to definitively establish. The prosecutor explained our options privately. The evidence proved systematic emotional abuse and coaching. Physical abuse was probable but harder to prove beyond reasonable doubt. Marcus could face charges ranging from child endangerment to assault, depending on what we could substantiate. Marcus's breakdown came during his deposition. He genuinely believed I'd stolen his family. In his mind, everything he'd done was fighting for survival. The tears were real this time. Not performance, but genuine anguish over losing control of his narrative. His lawyer requested a recess. When proceedings resumed, I was offered the chance to give a victim impact statement for potential sentencing. I thought about maximum penalties, about making him pay. But Amelia needed a father who got help, not just punishment. I asked the prosecutor to recommend mandatory therapy and parenting classes over maximum jail time. The plea negotiations moved quickly after that. Marcus's lawyer recognized the mounting evidence. They offered a deal. Marcus would plead guilty to child endangerment with mandatory therapy requirements. He'd avoid trial, but admit guilt. The admission would support our custody case. Marcus accepted the plea deal 2 weeks later. Standing before the judge, he admitted to emotionally manipulating our daughter. The words came out stilted, forced, but legally binding. He received 2 years probation, mandatory therapy, and parenting classes before any visitation could resume. The community reaction split predictably. Those who'd witnessed concerning behavior felt validated. Others who'd believed Marcus's narrative struggled to reconcile the admission with their perceptions. The school pickup line dynamics shifted permanently, some parents apologizing for not seeing signs, others maintaining distance from our drama. I started rebuilding systematically, found a small apartment near my sister with better security, enrolled in job training for medical coding through unemployment services. The work could be done remotely, allowing flexibility for Amelia's needs. Not glamorous, but stable. Amelia's therapy continued twice weekly. Progress came slowly, learning to separate her real memories from coached ones, processing the confusion of loving someone who'd hurt her. Some sessions left her angry at me for taking daddy away. Others brought relief that she didn't have to perform anymore. The supervised visitation plan outlined by the court would begin only after Marcus completed a year-long treatment program. Monthly progress reports would determine if and when visits could start. Amelia would have input through her therapist when the time came, the system finally prioritizing her voice. Marcus's social media went silent after the plea deal. The narrative he'd carefully constructed crumbled with his admission. Some supporters disappeared immediately. Others clung to beliefs about my influence, unable to accept they'd been manipulated. The divide in our community would last years. Financial recovery started with bankruptcy proceedings. The legal bills had destroyed my credit, but starting fresh felt appropriate. I found work doing overnight data entry while Amelia slept. Not ideal, but it paid bills while I completed coding certification. 6 months passed before Amelia mentioned Marcus without prompting. She asked if daddy was getting better. I explained he was in therapy learning healthier ways to handle emotions. She nodded thoughtfully, then returned to her homework. Progress measured in small moments of peace. The restraining order became permanent with modifications for future supervised visitation. Marcus completed his required classes, sending certificates through his lawyer. Each milestone brought closer the day we'd have to navigate co-parenting again, this time with professional oversight. I joined a support group for survivors of emotional abuse. Hearing similar stories helped contextualize our experience. Others had walked this path: the gradual rebuilding, the complex feelings, the challenge of helping children process trauma while healing yourself. Amelia's grades slowly improved as stability returned. Her teacher reported fewer anxiety symptoms, more engagement with peers. She joined art club, finding expression through painting, bright colors gradually replacing the dark themes from months prior. The medical coding certification came through just as unemployment benefits ended. I found remote work with a local clinic, setting my own hours around Amelia's schedule. Health insurance kicked in after 90 days, small victories building towards stability. Marcus's mother reached out through my lawyer, requesting supervised phone calls with Amelia. The therapist recommended waiting until Amelia expressed interest. Months passed before she asked about grandma. We arranged calls with the therapist present, rebuilding relationships carefully. Our new apartment felt different from the old one. Amelia decorated her room with art club projects. We established new routines: Friday movie nights, Saturday park visits, Sunday meal prep together, creating new memories to balance the difficult ones. The 1-year mark approached for Marcus's treatment program. His therapist submitted reports showing progress in anger management and accountability. The court would soon decide on supervised visitation rehabilitation parameters. Amelia's therapist prepared her for the possibility, letting her express mixed feelings safely. I realized I'd changed fundamentally through this process. The naive trust was gone, replaced by cautious boundaries, but also stronger, able to navigate systems that had failed us, advocate effectively, rebuild from nothing. Survival had transformed me. Amelia asked to write Marcus a letter for his birthday. Her therapist helped her express feelings appropriately. She wrote about missing some things but being scared of others, hoping he was learning to be better. The letter went through lawyers, maintaining necessary boundaries. 2 years after that courthouse confrontation, I watched Amelia at middle school orientation. She chatted with new classmates, shoulders relaxed, genuine smile, both of us still in therapy, still processing. Marcus halfway through his required treatment before supervised visits could begin. The ending wasn't clean or complete. Justice had come slowly through an imperfect system. We'd survived through persistence and documentation, community support, and professional help. Some relationships were forever changed, others strengthened through crisis. I thought about the mother I'd been in that courtroom, desperate, terrified, alone. Now I sat in the orientation assembly, employed, housed, surrounded by other parents navigating their own challenges. Amelia caught my eye from across the gym and waved. I waved back. The custody battle had ended, but the work continued. Healing happened in increments. Therapy sessions, stable routines, small moments of joy. Marcus would eventually re-enter Amelia's life under strict supervision. We'd navigate that when it came. For now, we focused on today. Homework and dinner plans, art club and coding projects, building a life that felt safe and sustainable. The trauma would always be part of our story, but it no longer defined every moment.